Sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and could even keep you from the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. I was talking to a new client this morning. It's been around about 6 months, I guess. But he said, Walker, I took a colleague with me on a sales call who's not involved in your program. And we went in to pitch this guy. And I knew the drill. I knew that we were supposed to ask questions and learn. The guy had 5 major problems he was dealing with. And he said, I let the other guy get in my head. And he said, we ended up talking most of the time. And we did cover kind of the first 4 problems that he had, but it wasn't until the last 5 minutes of the meeting that we figured out that the major problem was the 5th problem, which is the one we didn't get to. Very long, right? The call was over then. And he said, I just feel like shit, I should have done better than that. And I've kind of blown it. And I said, well, okay, so what do you do next? He said, what do you mean? I said, it's never over. So how do you feel about it? He said, I feel bad about it. I said, so why don't you call him? He said, what do you mean? I said, pick up the phone, call your prospect. Answer the phone. When he answers the phone, I want you to say, hey, Jim, this is John. I owe you an apology. We went to that meeting with you and I realized we talked way more than we should have. We really dorked that up. Didn't really understand until the very end that the thing you cared most about was the thing we spent the least amount of time on. And I wonder, would you give me a mulligan? I know we just spent an hour and a half in that meeting, but any chance we could set another time where we could spend 30 minutes and I can focus on that last issue, learn more about that from you. And so maybe we can figure out there's a way we can help you with that. Would you be willing to give me one more shot if I promise we'll just focus on this one thing to make sure I understand so that we could come up with a plan to fix it if you want us to? So that does one of a couple things. One, by the way, I always think that this thing where you call somebody and apologize is a very powerful, powerful tool. Here's the thing. You got to mean it. Right? You could use this tool lots of ways, but you have to be sincere. I don't know if you've ever called a customer service line and when the company screwed something up and the person on their script says, I'm sorry, and then they move on to something else, right? I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, sir. They don't mean it. It's part of a script. I want you, when you do something wrong, when your company does something wrong, remember, when you're in front of the customer, you are the company. I don't give a shit if operations screwed it up or even the customer themselves screwed it up. I want you to take responsibility. I'm sorry. We clearly didn't tell you not to do that, right? It's a pattern interrupt, number one. Number two, it's very, very human. And I think most people are afraid to be vulnerable, to be human like that. Yet it's the thing that brings us tightest together. It's what breaks barriers down. So if you've ever screwed something up in a sales call or screwed something up with customer service or screwed something up in working with somebody, by the way, this works at home too, take responsibility. Say, I'm so sorry. Could you give me a redo on that? We really botched that up. Simple advice. Say it like you mean it, not just, I'm sorry, like my kids say, I'm sorry I didn't clean the dishes. No, you're not sorry. Say it like you mean it and then do something different. And I want to get to this before I let you go. If something goes wrong in a relationship, in a business relationship, a healthy business relationship or otherwise, be the one to say, I'm sorry, I screwed that up. The other person may rescue you and say, no, that was my fault. But either way, even if they don't do that, it puts you back to even where you can move forward in a positive note, as opposed to finger blaming or not acknowledging a problem in the first place. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Don't forget to say, I'm sorry. It's a very powerful tool in sales and business and in life. And be sincere and mean it when you say it. Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you're struggling to close deals, then I want to invite you to take my free mini course, where you'll learn the 7 most expensive sales mistakes that will cost you time, money, and credibility. So be sure to click the link in the show notes or go to www.7salesmistakes.com. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.